Hi everyone, so this is my Gynomod final. It is a two-part final. I'm going to explain the first part and I am not going to explain the second part. You just get to do that yourself. But my first part of my final is a playlist that I made. It kind of goes directly along Time Passes into the Lighthouse because that part of the book was my favorite part of the book. I'm not saying that To the Lighthouse is my favorite book, but Time Passes was my favorite part of a book we read this semester. And this playlist kind of tracks it through this like destruction and despair, and then what I think is this strange and a little bit of hope at the end of that section. And so I'm really excited to share that with you. It's what I'm calling my annotated playlist. It's a little bit similar in the way of Dorothy Sayers' letter that we read. I don't think this is important. I'm not sure that it will be important, but it is very important to me. And so I'm really excited to share it with you because this book really hit a lot of personal chords with me this semester. And it was really important to me, and that hope that kind of was left at the end of that section was a really important kind of hope to me. So like I said, it's an annotated playlist. I am not going to go through every single song and touch on it, but there are a few songs that I think are pretty critical to the understanding that I want to explain a little bit. And I'm going to start by reading what I chose to be the cover photo for the playlist. It is one of the longest and one of my favorite passages in the book. It's kind of from Lily Briscoe's perspective, the playlist, and this quote is in Lily Briscoe's voice. And so she says, "Like a work of art," she repeated, looking from her canvas to the drawing room steps and back again. She must rest for a moment. And resting, looking from one to the other vaguely, the old question which traversed the sky of the soul perpetually, the vast, the general question which was apt to particularize itself at such moments as these. When she released faculties that had been on the strain, stood over her, paused over her, darkened over her. What is the meaning of life? That was all, a simple question, one that tended to close on one with years. The great revelation had never come. The great revelation perhaps never did come. Instead, there were little daily miracles, illuminations, matches struck unexpectedly in the dark. Here was one, this, that, and the other, herself and Charles Tansley and the breaking wave, Mrs. Ramsay bringing them together, Mrs. Ramsay saying, "Life stands still here," Mrs. Ramsay making of the moment something permanent. As in another sphere, Lily herself tried to make of the moment something permanent. That was of the nature of the revelation. In the midst of chaos, there was shape. This eternal passing and flowing. She looked at the clouds going and the leaves shaking, which struck into stability. "Life stands still here," Mrs. Ramsay said. Mrs. Ramsay, she repeated. She owed it all to her. And so this kind of frames the playlist, and obviously the title, it's a little cut off here, but the title of the playlist is "Could It Be That This Was Life? Startling, unexpected, unknown." And so that's the framing of this playlist and kind of essentially what it means to me. And so the first song that we'll touch on is "This Was a Home Once" by Bad Sons. And their particular quote is at 2:30. So I'm just, throughout the time, I'm just going to drag my little cursor to 2:30. I don't think I share computer sound. Okay, I fixed it. And so I think that kind of sets up the section of Time Passes with the destruction and the despair. And the next song I want to touch on is "Where the Shadows End" by Banners. And so this is a pretty brutal song, I think. It messes me up a lot. And their quote, it's a pretty long one, but I think it's important, is also at 2:30.
can see a lighthouse through the smoke. Everything is lost, I know. Underneath the roaring of the storm, I can hear the breaking of the dawn. Can you?
And it goes on, and it's really sad. But I think obviously there's the lighthouse, and there's the hope, and there's the question of, is there any hope at all? Which is a really, really important question. And then this next song is Rodanthe by Tyler Lyle. So this one's right here. Tyler Lyle, kind of my equivalent of songwriters to Virginia Woolf. He just has a lot of questions about a lot of important things. And this song has made me cry every time I listen to it. And as I was creating this playlist, that was a lot of times. So his quote is at 2:45. And that line, single line, just wrecks me every time, because it's not a sad, depressing kind of thing of, well, I'll never be able to get back to a time that was good. It's the fact that each moment is the best moment, and a moment can't be better than what it was before because it's a new one. And it might be just as good, but it'll never be better. And I really think that's one of the questions at the heart of this section of the book, because there's this desire to get back what once was. We hear Mrs. McNabb say, they will find it changed. Yeah, it'll be changed. Our semester was changed. Our life is changed forever now, but it may never be better. It may be good, but it'll never be as good as it was. It will never be better than how it was. So if you listen to any song in this playlist, I beg you to please listen to Rodanthe by Tyler Lyle. The next song that I want to explain, I'm not going to listen to a part of the song, but I'll in fact read a part of the book, is Build a Stage by Ron's Radio Return. And when you listen to this song, you'll kind of understand what I'm getting at, but instead of listening to the song, I want to read a section of the book. The section where Mrs. McNabb actually starts to come into the house and kind of build it back up together. Timmy McNabb, if you will. But she says, if a feather had fallen, if it had tipped the scale downwards, the whole house would have plunged into the depths to lie upon the sands of oblivion. But there was a force working, something not highly conscious, something that leered, something that lurched, something not inspired to go about its work with dignified ritual or solemn chanting. So it's this humble rebuilding of what was once lost. And then the next song is That's My Shit by Rainbow Kitten Surprise. And so this is a song that is a little obscure and not directly related to Woolf's book, but I think there is one line that is incredibly important. And I'll get there, it's at 109.
Not even half time, and now I'm here, and it's been 13 years, and I ain't gonna cry about it. I don't know where home is, but I suppose it's anywhere I go that's any good at all. Is that my fault? Is that all my fault? My dreams go.
And so the question of what is home and how do we define home and how do we find home? I think this is what Lily Briscoe is asking herself in the lighthouse section of the book. Because she comes back to the house and it is not the same. The memories that she has made are no longer there. The people she loves are no longer there. But is this still home for her? Can she still make this home for her? That line has destroyed me since like 2017. But I wanted to include it on the playlist. And the next one is from The Head and the Heart. I Found Out, their song I Found Out. My favorite line is actually right at the beginning of the song.
I found out it's not the love that's in your mind, it's the love that you might find that's gonna save our lives. I found out it's not the love that's in your mind, it's the love that you might find that's gonna save our lives.
So yeah, that one. And then this next one is called Be Where You Are by Bird Talker. And their quote is minute 150.
In the eye. After this moment, there's a new one. Be where you are.
So it's this really simple affirmation at face value, but this call to be as present as possible and to love where you are. And for Lily, that is after this destruction and despair, this house and this home. Can she be there fully? Can she let go of the moments that have been the past and love this new one? Obviously, you can see a running theme of the past and of time throughout the playlist, which is kind of my bread and butter. But the next song that I want to touch on is where I start to see this turning point. Well, the turning point happens earlier, but I think this is kind of the resolution. And this song is one of the most upbeat and kind of the happiest songs I think that we have on this playlist. And that's Together by Minor. And their quote is actually the last line of the song, and it destroys me.
Together is a wonderful place to be.
So they end on that. They make you think about it. They leave you with this: together is a wonderful place to be, which I think Mrs. Ramsey would say herself. And now we have one more song left that I want to touch on. And I was debating if I was going to say There's Still Light in This House or End of an Era. And I think There's Still Light in This House is pretty self-explanatory. So I wanted to explain their End of an Era. This song has gotten me through the pandemic. Whenever I would go on a silly little walk by myself, I would listen to this song on repeat. And I think it really, really encapsulates time passes and our semester. So this is the song I'm going to end on. And of course, they're all the way at the end too. They're at 2:50. Woo! I just dropped you guys. They're at 2:53. So that's the end of the playlist. That's the end of our semester. That's the end of the book. That's the end of Gynomod. But it's love at the end of the era. So that's the song I wanted to end on. Like I said, this playlist is important to me. This book was important to me. Gynomod is incredibly important to me. So if you find yourself wanting some really emotional music that is also like kind of crunchy granola music, hit up this playlist or any of my other playlists for that matter. They're all emotional and crunchy. But like I said, it's a two-part final. This was the first part. The second part, like I said, I'm not going to go in depth and explain it, but I will give you a preview. It is a BuzzFeed quiz. It is which Gynomod protagonist are you? Because I think we all have been doing that this semester, so why not take a quiz to find out? But as with any BuzzFeed quiz, it means absolutely nothing. Your result is totally null and invalid, so you may take it as many times as you want to get the answer that you want. And another disclaimer, it is not all-inclusive. It does not include every protagonist or every book that we read, because some of them are just kind of irredeemable, and I would not want any of us to be identified with, say, Irene. But I'm really excited for you to take this. When you do take it, please leave a comment on the post so that we can all see who we all are. I will give you a hint. I based the character that I most identify with off of myself. And it's pretty obvious. if you get that character too. Chris is like Carleigh, he hates time. It's not Chris Baldry, I promise, but I do hate time. I do hate that this semester has ended, but I do love Gynomod very, very much. So thank you for being my still point in this turning world, Gynomod. I love you guys. Have a good break. Now I stop recording.